Okay, good evening, everyone. Um, Glad to have you back with us. We're coming back to touch on a little bit more of this issue pertaining to the most recent, I'll say, discovery of changes to the Constitution, particularly pertaining to the clause, or so that you will be able to follow along, um, Article 7, Section 8G, G as in golf, where it states, matter of fact, I can just read it. Um, where it states that the senior minister who shall preside over the trial of the bishop shall designate a special prosecutor from among the general council to litigate the charges preferred before the General Assembly at the time the General Assembly notice is sent to the congregations. Before we go any further, let me simply state that this video is for educational and informative purposes only, and for anyone that has interest in this material. Tonight, we have back with us once again our friend, our brother, uh, Brother Joshua Edwards, joining us from Sacramento. How's it going with you, Josh?
Hello, everybody. It's going good. How are you?
Excellent, beautiful, doing well. So you've been watching the videos and you're up to speed, and you're familiar with the fact that we've talked to now Brother Perry as well as Kill, pertaining to these changes in the Constitution. I don't think
Yes.
that I've taken the opportunity yet to ask what are your thoughts so far, just with the idea that they were so bold to try to do this and manipulate the members into thinking that they're the ones that actually made these changes. What are your thoughts on this whole thing?
Oh, man. It is, just like you said, it is bold. It is, it is literally stealing candy from a baby.
Hmm.
And there's nothing you're going to do about it.
Yeah.
The, generally, it's a huge conflict of interest. It's a huge conflict of interest. And it's just not for the benefit of the people. Everything that I've heard over the last um, video or two that you've put out, it is not benefiting the members or the people whatsoever. It is only benefiting the bishop and the people that he wants to put in the council.
And therein lies the boldness that we're referring to. Um, and not just the bishop, but in this regard, now that I'm thinking about it, it's even more bold for the General Assembly
Mm-hmm.
secretary uh,
Mm-hmm.
to actually have a hand in this, because the General Assembly, that's his puppy. That's your job to maintain order, to
Right.
enforce the rules of the General Assembly, as well as uh, oversee the order of the actual meeting, and everything that revolves around it. So, uh, is that your feeling as well? That is more bold of him than it would be the bishop?
Yeah, I'm kind of torn between who's pulling the strings. Um, but they all have their part to play, right?
Mm-hmm.
They've all they've all got their ski masks on and over their faces, and they're all robbing everybody blind.
Yeah, pretty
Um,
much.
yeah, I mean, I agree with you though. The point that you're making, the general secretary to be able to orchestrate and manipulate all of those people at once, and it's like herding sheep, you know.
Hmm.
So
And in regards to uh, this subject pertaining to the General Assembly Secretary now. Um, Everyone at this point in time should understand, and let me know if this isn't clear to you. I'm sure it is. We've covered the law extensively. But everyone at this point in time should understand that the General Assembly Secretary is the man in the General Assembly, even though the bishop is presiding according to the Constitution, which I'm sure, now that we mentioned that, that also was taken from from the people, that power, and given to the bishop. Because once the people in the General Assembly nominate and elect a bishop, it's almost immediate. Well, he seizes control of the General Assembly and presides over it, and you do what I tell you to do. But that can't be accurate. That can't be right. Have you thought about that?
You're just saying that the quickness at which they assume power, it just can't be right?
Well, not so much just the power, right? Because power of the office is one thing,
Uh-huh.
but to be elected by the body referred to as the General Assembly, and then immediately now take control over the General Assembly. Is that not a conflict of interest, right? You nominate me, you elect me, I'm now the bishop.
Mm-hmm.
But then going forward, I'm in charge over everybody in the General Assembly. You do what I say, and my decision is final, and nothing I can do or say can you question it, or can you, right? Something's wrong with that understanding of the Constitution, don't you think?
Yeah, I definitely would agree with that. I didn't really think about it in that term and in that way until you just described it. But you're right. There's something wrong with that. If you have the power to elect somebody and you're supposed to be this third party that's impartial, and then all of a sudden it's, hey, now I control you, the person that they elected. That's like the president of the United States saying, hey, I can control the Senate.
Right? And jump up there and start doing it.
Right. Put my picture on the wall.
Yeah. And we've been touching on this back and forth, and we're talking about this more because it's important. It's vitally important that everyone actually understands exactly what we're talking about, especially pertaining to this, so that you'll understand how egregious it is for the bishop to do what he did. But in talking about it again, which is why I enjoy going over things out loud with other individuals, because you're going to look at things from a different perspective now that you're having the conversation and you're entertaining various questions about the particular subject at hand. But now that we're looking at it, given the fact that the General Assembly Secretary is the overseer of the General Assembly, it's actually more bold for him to be involved. So, this is what I mean. Once the bishop calls up the General Assembly Secretary, hello, yes, your bishop speaking. I need you to come and join a meeting so that I can call 3 or 4 other people to put them in this constitutional revision committee so that we can make some changes to the Constitution. And I need you to be a part of it since you're over the General Assembly, because you're going to be the one to push the proposal through the floor in order to allow the people to vote. And then we can make them think that they're the ones that actually made the changes. Okay, immediately when he hears anything that the bishop is requesting, what is it that you would have done had you been the General Assembly Secretary?
I would have said, what in the world are you talking about? What in the world are you talking about?
Oh, boy.
That is not the way things are supposed to be done.
He is saying that the bishop should have been called into question. Am I getting that right, or?
Hey, if I'm not bringing you up on charges, I'm finding somebody who will.
Because you are the popo in that In that regard, instantly,
Mm-hmm.
you're supposed to. Now, matter of fact, this is how bad this is. Again, now that we're talking about this, especially in this magnitude, this this is how bad this is. Not only were you the General Assembly Secretary, but you were also the head judge on the General Council. If no one is supposed to know better than to be involved in a revising of the Constitution and then to see that it's been approved to go out to be printed prior, before the date of the General Assembly, and then stamp a future date that says that these amendments and revisions were approved already, somehow looking into the future, you had to know what you're doing. Am I getting this wrong, or is this a bit inaccurate, or am I spot on with this?
How are you going to have a judge that doesn't know the law or uphold it?
Right?
Yeah, you're getting it right. I don't find any fault in what you're saying.
So, with that in mind, now, matter of fact, it's really worse than that. First of all, General Assembly Secretary is supposed to call the bishop into question, or at least put him into check. No, we can't do that. The Constitution says, even if the bishop does not understand what it says, the General Assembly Secretary is supposed to recite the Constitution. It says you can't do that. I can't do that. None of us can do that. Only the General Assembly has the authority to make changes to the Constitution. If you want to do something, then you have to go through the normal protocols, have somebody write up a proposal. You can give it to them to put their name on it, or there's no law that says a bishop can't write proposals, but it has to go through the proposal process. That said, this is even worse. If you're a judge, and even worse than that, you're a head judge, which means you're not just a normal circuit court judge. You're not just a criminal court judge. You're not a statutory court judge, contract court judge. You, not even appeals court. That's the equivalent of being Supreme Court, to be head judge. And then if you're on the Supreme Court, you would in fact be the Chief Justice. And you still went along with this. To make matters worse, can you remember one more thing that we haven't touched on yet about the person that was in this position? Can you think of any other thing right offhand that would make this matter even worse than what it is already?
Head minister?
Head minister. Now, he said head minister, but we know that he's referring to, right, senior minister. You were the General Assembly Secretary, the head judge on council, as well as the senior minister.
Yes, sir.
All three of those positions should have stopped the bishop right in his tracks. So this is even worse because you went along as the senior minister, you went along. As the head judge, you went along. And as the General Assembly Secretary, you went along. And not just cooperated, but you had a hand in all of this. To make matters worse, to even sign it, knowing that these suggestions are going out to be printed and your name needs to be in the back of the book. So it's signed with your name long before the meeting. All of those things are referred to as willful intent, willful misconduct. This was intentional. There's no way in the world that you can be able to say that this was a mistake. And again, in talking about this tonight, it just shows exponentially worse than what it was that I was thinking about while talking to Kill or Brother Perry. Now that we add those two titles to the title of a General Assembly Secretary at that time, In your mind, how bad does this look for that person in comparison to the bishop?
It looks much worse because you are fulfilling so many roles all at once. It not only is it a conflict of interest, but just for the sake of, you know, if someone were to have all those roles and it wasn't a conflict of interest, you should be a very knowledgeable, upstanding, truthful. I mean, you should be absolutely respected among all your peers. To be the head judge, you would think you'd know about the law. To be the senior minister, you would think you knew all about the organization and its laws. To be the General Assembly secretary, you have to know about the laws. And you have to know about who has what authority to do what. And the fact that you've got all these titles at the same time and you're not obeying any of the laws, you're manipulating the people. It's just, it is magnified, and it is even worse.
It's so bad. And
Yes,
now
sir.
that you touched on that, I'm thinking about maybe a couple of videos ago where I was considering, no, it might have been three, where we were talking about, I was touching on the Navy Corps values,
Yes, sir.
right?
Mhm.
And that word that is placed before every judge's name, that one word, honorable. To be in that position alone bestows honor on the individual that is filling that role. Just to have that one title, to be in a honored position, overseeing a group of individuals where you are expected to not only enforce the rules for all of these individuals, that you yourself are taking an active role in governing,
Right.
right? And then not just to enforce, but the expectation is that you would at least be walking in accordance with the laws that you are supposed to enforce to others, upon others,
Right.
right? But not just two titles, but three. And
Right.
over the most important meeting of the entire organization, where the only purpose of that meeting is to do one thing and one thing only: to discuss, revise, amend the most important book in the entire organization, the Constitution.
Right.
That is the highest honor. Now, a lot of people feel that the highest honor would be to be bishop. But keep in mind, we're supposed to be in a checks and balances system. Again, if you look at the country, it's like the legislative body being Congress, the judicial body being Supreme Court, and the executive body being the presidency. Which one is in the most honored position? It's in my opinion, it would be the
Right.
Supreme Court. Because if there's a problem with Congress, presidents can write executive laws and overrule them. If the president does something in error, the Congress can call him into question. And again, if there's a problem on both sides and there needs to be a third party to be injected into this to figure out, okay, who's right, who's wrong, or making a decision where we're going to go forward, the Supreme Court. In this particular instance, however, in the General Assembly, you are coming together as a Congress, but you have the right, according to the Constitution, to put on a hat that now converts the General Assembly into a courtroom.
Right.
right? Because the General Assembly is the only place that can try and remove the bishop,
Mm-hmm.
right? So now the purpose of that meeting in the General Assembly is being converted and transformed into a court. Now, we have said, according to what's written, the highest court in the organization is the Supreme Court when the bishop is present and attending the General Council. But let's look at this thing. Is that really the highest court? Normally, yeah. But what do you think if a trial's taking place to hold the bishop accountable to violations that they've committed and perhaps even possibly move them? Would that court be even higher than the Supreme Court?
Yeah, I can see it that way.
Right. When the bishop has the final say, and yet now the bishop has been brought into question, and as this goes forward, even the Constitution is being brought into question.
Right.
Well, now that court holds more weight, more power, and it has been, well, it appears to even be more honorable than the Supreme Court, especially if the Supreme Court has someone sitting in the bench that is not honorable or doing dishonorable things.
Right.
What's your take?
Yeah, the way that, I mean, if you're bringing up the bishop on charges, and the General Assembly effectively turns into a courtroom, and every one of those delegates effectively turns into a witness, right?
Right?
To listen to the charges, and your defendant is the Supreme Court like judge effectively.
Mm-hmm.
That would make that courtroom that the General Assembly has now turned into like the highest court in the land.
Right.
And when you start looking at courtrooms, court of law in the world, you can see that these judges should be elected officials. It doesn't make any sense to appoint judges by the person who's being brought up on charges.
Do you?
Because that person, not only does that person get to appoint who's going to represent him, apparently, he also gets to appoint where they can pastor at, if they can be in the general council or not,
Mm-hmm.
if they can be the senior minister, if they can be the head judge.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't think that he appoints the General Assembly secretary, but he can definitely put it out there that he'd like it. It's just, it makes no sense that how is a body of people not going to elect, who they believe will represent justly and fairly? It doesn't make any sense.
Those two words he just used, justly and fairly. You're not going to find justice. You're not going to find fairness in a system where an individual has complete autonomy. He gets to take absolute control and hold absolute power, can say anything and everything he wishes, can do anything he wishes, has a green light to change anything he wishes,
Mm-hmm.
can never be questioned in anything, can never be corrected in anything, and gives off this impression that apparently, according to what was written in this illegal, null and void, fake constitution,
Mm-hmm.
has written code that he can't even be tried by people of the earth, since what the interpretation of what Paul said, God is his only judge. You, you, you have you have to see through this. What he just said about
That,
a, go ahead.
even that goes against the law of the New Testament.
Right. Which is again another point, because the Constitution says that the bishop must be in compliance also with the laws of the New Testament. And that goes against the gospel and the doctrine and the teachings of the New Testament. No one ever said that nobody could judge them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's just a popular tattoo to put on your body if you're in the world. Only God can judge me. That means I can do all the bad stuff I want to do.
I forgot about that. What was that? I think the one that made that saying famous was Tupac.
I don't know.
Yeah, only God can judge me.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't surprise me. But the people who say that are usually the people who are doing the wrong.
Very good point. And up until you mentioned what you did, I had not even stopped to consider or think, running so much, about the appointments. And when you touched on that, light bulb, the appointments. For those of you who follow politics, there are times when there are Congress members who comes on to the media to attempt to appeal to the public to try to get individuals to not want or have problems with or find fault in presidents making appointments to the bench, right?
Yes, sir.
Why do you think congressmen and women would want the public to have a problem with any sitting president to appoint judges in the court system or on the bench? Why would congressmen and women want the people to find fault in that?
Well, the people want their own representatives. They don't want someone else making a decision on who's going to represent them. Is that what you're getting at? Are you talking about when you say the bench, right?
Yeah, the court as a judge, it's Congress refers to it, just so that you all know who's watching. Congress refers to an appointment when you're going to put a judge in the court. Whenever a president appoints a judge, this is only normally considering the Supreme Court. Can a judge, or can the president appoint judges in other courts? Absolutely. Presidents do it all the time. I think the most that a president in one term has put into position as judges might have been, maybe, if I'm not mistaken, 316. Now, people don't generally know about this, but this is a very, very powerful move. Because if you're a judge, or I'm sorry, if you're a president and you're putting judges all over the place, well, are you helping people out when you take them from being a lawyer and you promote them to being a judge? Are they going to find that you pretty much took care of them? Is that a special favor? Can it be looked upon as that?
A little quid pro quo, maybe.
Right? You owe me one, and we're not going to go there until I need you. Right?
Right.
We see stuff like this all the time. So, congressmen and women want the public to find fault in presidents appointing judges. And if the presidents, or anyone else for that matter, in this case bishops, are appointing judges, then are the judges that are being appointed going to be favorable to you? Or are the judges going to be favorable to the people? And by that I mean, are they going to work for you on your behalf? Or are they going to work for the people on their behalf? Because if a judgment comes up, a case, and people have a problem, let's say, oh, I don't know, with the bishop, well, is that judge going to be biased or is that judge going to be fair? And he said something else too, that the bishop maintains the right to remove a minister at will. You can take him out of a position and you can put him somewhere else. So a judge is normally a chairman that's in maybe a mother house, the larger congregations. Well, if the bishop has a problem with a judge, oh, you didn't take care of me last year. Okay, I got you. And then when it comes time for recommendations to install or put pastors wherever, well, for now, whatever reason, yeah, I think there needs to be a change here.
I'm gonna send you down to Timbuktu.
Yeah, Alaska needs a good man. And there you go. And every single man on that council understands that they can be moved any time the bishop says. And this is where the problem lies, that we've been dealing with men who's been taking and taking and taking power and power and power out of the Constitution from the people and intricately placing it in the hands of councilmen, in the hands of chairmen, in the hands of senior ministers, or in the hands of General Assembly secretaries, or in their own hands. They're distributing powers amongst themselves so that they can get the men in these positions on their side in their line of defense. And that's why we're seeing this law in the Constitution that they pushed through in 2022 that says the senior minister who shall preside over the trial. There was no language in the Constitution prior to that talking about a senior minister presiding over the trial of the bishop. How are you going to get your boy, or how are you going to get your right-hand man? How are you going to get your right-hand man to actually preside over the trial of the bishop when you are doing wrong? This is why they're saying it makes no sense. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's like just in another way of putting it is just if the House of Representatives, or if it gets to the Senate, if they're trying to impeach the President of the United States, and then the President says, okay, y'all can try that if you want to, but my VP that I ran with, that was elected with me, or that I put there essentially, he gets to preside over the hearing. It's like, it is the biggest conflict of interest. It essentially, it reminds me when you've got one person who can assign all these different positions of pastorship and can assign titles, can take away titles, can appoint different positions, can strongly suggest even other positions that, of course, the people aren't going to fight against. It just reminds me of the Game of Thrones, where everyone is just doing everything they can to appease whoever the current king is. And the hopes that they can get closer and get closer and get closer. And they're using all their power and all their pull to work for the king and at the same time work for themselves. Because what's good for the goose is good for the gander, right? It's like a thieves guild, right?
Right.
And they're stealing from each other and they're stealing from everyone else. And eventually, you might have a shot at that throne. Eventually, you might have a chance to sit in that seat. And so it would be in your own self-interest to absolutely look away and turn a blind eye from all the wrong that you see. And it would be in your own best interest to be quiet, to sweep things under the rug, to make things easy, and to basically run your mouth and self-proclaim all the good you do for them and how you turned away the bad people and you got rid of that guy or that gal who was causing a problem and it, essentially, stepping on the backs of others to work your way up closer to that throne. It's just a selfish game.
And now that you mentioned that, how much of a guarantee, so to speak, or what would be the percentages, the chances, the likelihood of you becoming bishop if you are the General Assembly Secretary slash the head judge slash the senior minister?
Well, I would say your odds are very good.
Very good.
Yes.
And if said person wearing titles and filling positions that absolutely contradict one another, if that individual, before we go there, keep in mind, he's talking about the right slash power slash authority for the bishop to name anyone he feels like, whenever he feels like, or even change those persons whenever he feels like, for any position with any office and any title. And to have that ability, how much would the chances to become the next bishop drop if you are senior minister, head judge slash General Assembly secretary, and you stop the bishop from doing what he wants to change that constitution? How much would those chances of that person becoming bishop drop, or would they remain just as high?
Oh, shucks. You wouldn't have a chance to become the bishop because the bishop's going to strip you of all your titles. He's going to move you out of your house. He might take away your not just senior minister and head judge titles. He might take away. You're an apostle. Say goodbye.
Yeah.
You're nothing now. You're just a member. You're a brother.
Yeah.
I mean, if he doesn't run you out first and turn the entire organization against you first, there is no way. Because they will convince everyone that you are working contrary and against the bishop.
Boom. Mic drop. And this is what we've been saying. This is how they do what they do behind closed doors. This is how they weaponize members against you. One allegation coming from up there, everyone, even Nana, not Nana, yeah, Nana, will turn on you at the drop of a hat. Oh, no, you didn't. Addie said that about you? Oh, no, you ain't my poo-poo no more. You are a poo-poo, but you ain't my poo-poo. And just like that, people turn. So the chances are going to be more likely that any one of these positions are going to do exactly what he says, which is why at that precise moment, and not just the first time, uh, there was another time that we know of, 2009, the same thing happened during the Constitution amendments and in that General Assembly,
Mm-hmm.
which again is so is so bold because it's just ongoing. And now we're at the point where this clause is now being inserted to protect the bishop against a trial to remove him in the event that he gets caught for violating the law. That's how bold this is. And for the General Assembly Secretary to insert himself in all of this. Let me kind of change gears here for a moment. So we know that there's an order of service. um, we know that there is an order of a meeting. We know that the General Assembly is not a service, but it is a meeting.
Yes, sir.
Have you had the opportunity to attend a General Assembly yet?
No, I've never gone. I've never been a representative.
Okay. But you are familiar with the order of the meeting, how it's supposed to go.
Well, I have heard stories about how it goes. The official. I can't say officially. I know exactly, but I've heard stories about how it goes. But I think you show up and they do roll call, and then you make a bunch of excuses why people aren't there. You sing happy birthday, and then you leave for the day, right?
Something like that.
Okay, close enough.
That precedence has been set in that regard. And, joking or not joking, that is the current mindset of many of the members pertaining to the General Assembly because this is what they've seen. They've seen you arrive, register by making sure that your name matches the name that's on the list, getting your badge, putting that on, going inside, and listen to them welcome you to the nation's capital, Washington, D.C. It is a blessing, a privilege, and an honor to be here. When you're done, if it's early enough, we have sightseeing tour buses that's going to be parked outside. Right? It feels like that.
Wow.
That you're not really there to do anything constructive towards the letter of the law. I've seen times when they've had an intermission and let people go and have breakfast or snacks or whatever, and then come back and give them a time when the bishop is going to arrive. None of this stuff is legal. So, an orientation, we talked about this, is supposed to be had immediately after the registration orientation, where they cover what it is that you're there for, where they cover what your responsibilities and obligations are, where they cover the general process of nominating someone, electing someone, opening up the floor to make a motion for something that you would like to move on. And it would also be helpful if these things are actually in writing and given to every member of the General Assembly as a record so that you would know what step we're in, because it's not like they don't know what we're going to talk about on that day.
Right.
The order of a meeting, a typical meeting, you do understand that, correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, anytime anyone in a meeting raises their hand, does anyone have the authority to not let that person speak or be recognized?
Well, if they don't want you to speak, they're going to tell you you're out of order, or they're going to tell you to go talk to someone else.
Right?
But no, the way that it should be is that you're all there. you're all on an equal or should be on an equal and level playing field. Everyone there is representing other people who voted for them to be there.
Mm-hmm.
And anyone who raises their hand should be allowed to get called upon and have their, concerns, requests heard.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean it's going to happen, but anyone should be able to speak up.
Right. But they're supposed to, with the understanding, like he just said, you're not there of your own accord to talk about what you want to talk about. You're there to talk about what the congregation that you represent would like to talk about. It would behoove you to have a list, have notes from your house meeting, so that you can be prepared to either ask the questions that you want to ask or make the statements that you'd like to make. Either way, no one has the authority to tell you that you cannot speak. The moment that the Speaker of the House, the very moment that the Speaker of the House violates the order of a meeting by telling someone, stop, you cannot speak, not acknowledging someone's hand that goes up, the very moment they do that, they're going to get questioned by someone in that Congress. Because the congressmen and women, they actually receive something known as, what do we call it? Orientation. Our members know how to spell the word. They know how to read the word. But according to the practices of the General Council in the General Assembly, they have no idea the meaning of the word. Right after registration, the members are to be oriented. And that's where those pamphlets come in, letting them know. And everyone, you should be able to hear pages as they turn pages. You have a room full of almost nearly 600 people, if not more. That's just the representatives. And yet, it's quiet. No, something's wrong. Even as quiet as it may be, your voice should be heard ringing if you're the General Assembly Secretary. So, anyway, after orientation, then you're supposed to be preparing to go into the next order of business. Now, can there be an intermission? Absolutely.
Right.
But
I'm sure the organization would love to buy some snacks and buy some drinks and food for everybody there, right?
it would be ideal, but since everyone is expected to come from all over the country and put yourselves up in these hotels at your expense and to pay for your gas at your expense, your food is you would think people paying all this money out, they would be able to get free food while they're there, but no, Jack. That food is at a cost, and you are not even going to see a discount, no matter how many years of faithful attendance and participation.
Even the delegates should at least be able to get a free copy of the new Constitution, right?
The delegates, you would think. But there's another point that he just made. Even the law, which is the equivalent of an employee handbook, is not free. Y'all hear what he just said? Go ahead. Go ahead. You want to expound on that?
So to understand the law, you have to pay to even see it. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. Every year.
You have to pay to see the law?
Yeah. Yeah. Uncanny. You cannot make this stuff up.
It's almost as if they're purposefully making a barrier for
And to make money off of everything. Um, what was it, Saturday night? I think we were talking about, yes. Um, People are also told and taught and learned and expected to take pictures and send them in so that they can go into either Grace, fill in the blank of whatever bishop magazine, along with your testimonies. Now, the purpose of that is that they're also going to sell those testimonies and make money off of that too. But the individual who wrote those testimonies, or even wrote poetry, some people write poems, beautiful, beautiful talent, and send it in. And they print and put those poems in there to sell. But those poetry writers, songwriters, dreamers of dreams, visions, and experiences of people who declare that the Lord's servant, holy anointed manservant in the land today, healed me, or fixed me, or gave me that job, or took care of my house insurance, or whatever the case may be. Not credit and glory and honor and praise going to the Most High or His Son, but rather to Him. Now, we talked about that, but here's the thing. When no one is following an order, and even down to the letter of the law is being sold to you, then it is simply another stream of income. You have the Constitution, the Are You Aware, the Truth and Facts, Supreme bylaws, and the auxiliary bylaws. And this is the auxiliary bylaws, just a basic law for the auxiliaries. And even that used to be $1. This, $1. Color coded, $1. Now all of them, $4 a piece. Last time I checked, they might have gone up. Bishop Cunningham has been raising prices of things. But what are the members getting in return? Anything. So my question a moment ago was, if someone has their hand raised, can they be overlooked? Can they be ignored? Can they not be called on? And the answer is, of course, if we're going by the law, no. But we see this all the time in the house of prayer. That said, once something happens and it is tabled, not to be concluded in that day's minutes, when should you hear about those events again?
At the start of the next meeting.
Start of the next meeting. Why is it important that we hear those minutes at the next meeting?
Well, it would have been old business that needs to be followed up on, and it would need to be resolved. If whatever it was wasn't finished, then it's important to bring it up first to resolve that issue and move on.
Right? But if there's no one attempting, trying, looking like, or even seeming as if they're willing or going to resolve that issue, then should that person wait, or should that person proceed anywhere?
Oh, I'm sorry, my connection was a little bit bad there.
Oh, no, you're good.
Yeah, if that person, you're saying if that person's not there, what should they do?
Yes, sir. If that, or if the people that they go to, if they ignore them, or if they do nothing about those issues, they do no resolving of those issues, or contacting the individuals that you're complaining about. If the person's whose job it is to look into these matters, if they're doing nothing, then what do you think the member would be inclined to do if they have a problem that need to be resolved?
Yeah, if the member had brought up an issue, then you would think that they'd go back and and try to get it resolved, get it brought up again.
Mm-hmm. And once they do that, and the authorities do nothing, then what should that member do?
Hmm. Well, if you won't be heard,
Mm-hmm.
and there's no other way of appealing, right? If there's no way to appeal, there's no higher authority to go to, there's no other answer, then what can you do?
Right? The only thing left is to go around them, go over their head. Whenever there's a crime and they don't have anyone to pin the crime on, there has been times some unfavorable police officers have locked up the wrong individual. Sometimes that happens unknowingly. Sometimes it happens knowingly. But we'll talk about the known incidents. When people are picked up and the police absolutely know that they did not commit the crime, they know it. A senator is being taken into custody for embezzling funds, right? And the authorities know that that is not what happened. They know it, but they're taking them in anyway. Should that person just sit back, sit tight, not worry about it at all, and see where it goes? Connection issue? Yeah, he's going to be calling back. My point was that, here we go. Yeah, bad connection.
I apologize about that.
No, it's good. But if there's a congressman who's getting arrested, and it has been said that they've done something wrong, they've committed a crime, and but the authorities know that they didn't. Of the congressperson, they know that they didn't. Should they just take it, or should they perhaps maybe do something about it? Who can they go to? Is there a way that they can go and attack this issue another way rather than going up the chain inside the Congress? Or should they just take it?
Well, you don't have to just take it. I mean, you could choose to, but if you don't want to just take it, I mean, you could take it to court. You're going to have to appeal to the law of the land.
Mm. And given that we have in every house certain auxiliaries, every single auxiliary, is there someone on every auxiliary whose job it is to resolve conflict?
Absolutely. The presidents, that's on them.
The president's job is to resolve conflict. If you're on a board and your president does not resolve a conflict that you have, is there anybody else that you can go to if the president does not resolve your problem to your satisfaction?
Yeah, the president of presidents.
President of presidents. Ah, now you can go to them. And their job is to come in, listen to the issue, along with helping with programs, but listen to your issue. And if there's a problem that a member's having with their president, then that individual comes in to see if they can resolve the problem. If they don't fix it, is there anybody else that a member can go to?
Absolutely. What would you do? You'd go to your elder board. You could.
Yeah.
Essentially, you'd go to your house's pastor, assistant pastor.
Now, some places have a board of deacons, but many houses do not have any deacons. So some people don't have a choice but to go to their elders
Or
board, right?
or like an elder, or they might have an elder deacon board
Right. So,
if they're small.
and absolutely correct. An elder is to be brought into the meeting, and now everyone listens to that elder fix that problem, resolve that problem. If they don't, well, then you go next, like he said, to the pastor. The pastor's job is to come and fix that problem. If the pastor does not fix the problem and ignore it, is there anybody else that that person can go to?
Keep going up the chain of command.
Keep going up the chain of command. So the problem is don't take no for an answer and don't let anybody push you around. So if you're in a meeting and they have to acknowledge you, no one can just ignore you because you've been elected to do a job. Doesn't matter how much time has been taken up. This whole jazz about we need to go ahead and get ready to close out because the bishop don't have much time before he needs to be back. That's all rushing business. You don't ever rush business. Everything.
The tour bus is about to leave.
Right? Everything is supposed to be dependent on the business at hand. This is the most important meeting of the year. You don't allow no one to rush you through this. But they want you to rush through this. Why? Because it gives them one more year where they get to sit back and say, whew, we made it. And it's these plants and this algae that they've been able to track in Hawaii to determine 2 weeks of time every year where they tell the people who go into the beach, do not get in the water. Now, why am I talking about Hawaii in correlation to the General Assembly of the House of Prayer? Because of this reason. Do you remember this?
I don't recall not to get in the water.
Yeah, 2 weeks out of every year at Hanama Bay. Remember the video that they show before anyone went diving or scuba?
Oh, was it the something? It's like a certain season.
Right.
Where, what was it? I can't remember if it was jellyfish or eels or sharks or.
It was the box jellyfish.
Yes, sir.
Box jellyfish are about the size of a dime, but they're very transparent. It looks like little shreds of plastic. You can hardly see them. But they are the absolute most poisonous thing almost on earth. If you get stung by, and their tentacles might be maybe an inch long. If you get stung by one of their barbs, and their tentacles, it doesn't matter, diameter, one of their barbs, you have the equivalent of 2 to 3 days to get some serum. Up until that time, after about 2 to 3 minutes, that's when your body is going to start reacting to the venom. Every minute and a half or so, somewhere between 80 to 90 seconds, somewhere in that window, your body is going to start convulsing and tightening up and your muscles are going to begin to... The pain is so immense. And you just strain, bear through the pain, and then it goes away. And you're just breathing, your heart racing, then it comes back. And it's so intense, every minute and a half or so. And the people watching them go through this is horrific. As this venom goes through and it disturbs your nerves, the nerves and the signals that your nerves are sending to the body. You go, hey, oh my gosh. They showed a video of a person that had gotten stung. They had to try to get them to another island to get them to the hospital. Long story short, they got down to a science that there's 2 weeks that the beaches are closed. They've studied and tracked this thing down to a science where there's a 2-week window. Don't get in the water. For those 2 weeks, there's somewhere about a 4 or 5 day span within that 2-week period. But they've gotten it down to a science where up until the first day of that 2 weeks and the last day of that 2 weeks, it's all good to get in the water. They come in, they mate, and then they leave. And they have had no incidents, I think, for something like 30 some years.
Oh,
Now, and that was when we were there.
I
Um,
missed that in the orientation.
right? And just before you go in, there's a little hut where they show you a video of all the marine life that's in the
Right.
water, right? And then there's pamphlets for some of this stuff. I thought it was so interesting. I went and did a little bit more. Anybody that's seen the movie, I don't promote things, but there's this very famous actor, Blank Smith. 7 pounds, the movie.
Yeah.
But at the end of the movie, he gets in a bathtub, and in his aquarium, he actually has a box jellyfish.
Ooh.
That's what he puts in the bathtub for individuals who, when you see his reaction. Okay, my point is this. When we do not resolve problems, when we do not investigate and look into issues, then those unresolved problems can become severely detrimental. And it can inflate to such a degree that it will implode. Now, we have a system of individuals, positions of authority, no accountability. If Hawaii had not done something about the fact that someone is getting stung by a box jellyfish, and you have these repeated incidents, but these repeated incidents only happen a certain time of year. And they've nailed it down, I think, within an 8 to 10 year window, those 2 weeks. Because people were listening and paying attention and looking at the problems and actually doing what was necessary, taking steps to solve the problem, now they have 0 incidents.
Mm-hmm.
If we're addressing our own problems and people going forward, not afraid of law and order, but going forward to pursue law and order by questioning individuals who's in positions of authority and holding them to the law, then we also would end up with a organization where we would be experiencing 0 incidents.
Right.
But we're having a myriad of incidents all year round, including the General Assembly, where absolutely nothing is being done according to the order of an official meeting.
Right. And a part, if I may just expound a little bit,
Absolutely.
a part of the problem is you have this whole, let's just call it a bottom half of the organization
Mm-hmm.
that make up, the members make it up, where they make up these auxiliaries, they make up these clubs, they make up the president position, and all the different positions within, their auxiliaries and whatnot.
Right.
These are all, even the delegates, they're all elected positions.
Mm-hmm.
The people are electing them. They put their trust in them. They're putting their faith in them. They're looking at their history. They're looking at the results that they get. They're looking at the character. They're looking at how they're living, what they do, how good they are, how much they know. These are all elected positions, all the way from the smallest teeny tiny little club,
Right.
all the way up to, the most important elected position is you've got, your delegates going, to the General Assembly.
Mm-hmm.
But everything above them, the top half, they're all appointed. They're all appointed. So the bottom half is looking at quality, character, the honor, courage, and commitment that we spoke about a little bit, the Navy core values.
Mm-hmm.
They're looking at these things, and they're doing their best to judge and vote for what they believe is really, truly going to get them somewhere. Someone who they can stand behind, stand next to, and say, I'm proud to be here. I'm proud to work with this person.
Yeah.
This is an honorable president and an honorable president of presidents.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, one time I was at a house, we didn't have any presidents, but somehow we still had a president of presidents. But yeah, that's neither here nor there. Uh, we, yeah, we were special. So the top half of this organization, which is also made by its members, they're appointed. And it's not in their own self-interest to have to deal with these things as they come up.
Mm-hmm.
It's not in their self-interest to have to, you know, be truthful at times. It's not in their self-interest to be honorable at times.
Mm-hmm.
The courage goes out the window and everything becomes fear-based because, you know, I don't want to lose my title. I don't want to lose my position. I don't want to lose, you know, this house and the members that I love. Fear can be a cause for so many different things. I don't want to lose my pastor's offering or my parsonage that I'm staying in, or you know, whatever it may be. I don't want to be ashamed if I lose my title of senior minister. I don't want to be ashamed if I lose my title of head
humiliation.
judge.
Yeah.
Right. And so you've got this whole top half of many, many, many men filling many, many, many positions, right? General counsel, chairman, assistant chairman.
Yeah,
You've got the pastors, the evangelists. You've got all of these appointments. They're not thinking about what's going on below them. They're thinking about the seat they're sitting in. Because if they really did think about what's going on below them, if they really did, we wouldn't see all these issues. We wouldn't have all these issues. And you'd be seeing a whole lot less corruption because they'd have the courage and the honor and the commitment to bring up issues.
Right.
But I'm not seeing that, and I haven't seen that.
Yeah, because of so much intimidation is what he's getting at.
Yes.
And you have integrity that's on one end of the spectrum. You have honor on one end of the spectrum. You have honesty is another biggie on one end of the spectrum. Transparency on one end of the spectrum. You have all these things on one end of the spectrum. And on the other end, you have the exact opposite. You have cover-ups, lies, deceit, jealousy, envy. The game of politics is being played so heavily in the organization. It is insanity to sit back and watch it. And I raise that because during the entire General Assembly, like I said, from the beginning to the end, you're not looking at an order of a meeting. We know the meeting's supposed to be called in order. Psalm, scripture, prayer. Everyone raise your hands, repeat prayerfully after me. Right? And then you have roll call. Recording secretary calls down the roll, everybody there, blah, blah, blah. They do that in the General Assembly. However,
do they collect dues too?
that's the one thing they haven't gotten to do yet, which I'm surprised. Oh, gosh. Shh, not too loud, not too loud.
Oh, sorry. Let the cat out the bag.
If they hear us, then they might insert that next year. The thing is this, after that, they're supposed to go into the reading of the previous minutes, right? And this is where A councilman, not a person of the General Assembly, a councilman. And this is why we keep on talking about how they got this thing so twisted where they're controlling everything and giving the people the impression that y'all the ones doing all this stuff, but they're the ones doing it. Just watch. Who walks up to the mic? This is all orchestrated. I wouldn't even be surprised if they came up with a list. You're doing this. You're gonna sing. You're gonna say a few words. You're gonna introduce
Yeah,
blah blah blah, right? All
absolutely.
all of that is assigned, and you don't see the people coming up. You see them. They come up, and what he just said is all of those positions you have nothing to do with. But those are the important positions. Those are the shot calling positions. Those are the decision making positions. And since you are not in those positions, the reality is in the organization that the members, no matter where you are, no matter who you are, no matter what congregation you are a part of, you do not have a seat at the table. And that's the problem. So while we're in the General Assembly, you have an individual like myself who hand goes up, but they don't want to call my hand. And when I keep my hand up, and they finally call my hand, well, now I got something to say, but they don't want to hear me say it. So they shut down the conversation. And the bishop asserts his fake constitution giving authority to tell me, no, I'm not going to be heard, or to tell me, no, my request is not going to be granted. So what do? I take it. Oh, well, why did you take it? Why didn't you stand up? Why didn't you speak
Right.
out? See, you telling
Right.
us, right? But no.
The General Assembly shouldn't even be there. Or, excuse me, the General Council shouldn't even be there.
Right. I think.
They weren't elected to be there. They weren't. They have nothing to do with the votes.
Mm-hmm.
There's zero purpose for them to be there. And when you see them start taking turns
Mm-hmm.
guiding the way that the meeting is going,
Mm-hmm.
okay, so for example, if you are serving, I'm sorry for the catwalk.
No, you're good.
If you're serving in a jury, you've got jury duty. The jurors, they elect a foreperson who presides over their deliberations. And it can be a senior person who's there. It can be someone who's got experience doing it before.
Mm-hmm.
The General Assembly should be allowed, the delegates should be allowed to elect such positions that are needed to carry out the General Assembly. Like, if you have a secretary, what are they even doing? But for the purpose of moving the General Assembly along, they can elect speakers. They can elect someone, to do this, to do that, to do the next thing. And you can have those elections at the start,
Mm-hmm.
after the roll call. It's an impartial way of just delegating people through election without appointment to eliminate, hopefully any type of just to elect in a fair and impartial way.
Right.
But when you've got general counsel there that are taking their turns, doing different things, moving things along, that is extremely suspicious to me.
Yes.
That is extremely. Why are you here? Why are you talking to us? We know what we're here for. We went through the orientation. We should have freedoms to move this thing along ourselves, and we should be allowed to represent ourselves too. But that would mean that, things are done fair and decently and in order.
And they would lose their coveted powers.
Yes.
That's what they love. That's what they enjoy. right? From
Yes,
the bishop on down. And he said something else that actually made a lot of sense. Um, the people's own elections. So, why is it that one of them comes up and they open up the floor? Again, it's for control. By controlling every single thing, they get to keep the bishop where he is. And how, incidentally, do you think that the bishop ended up with all of this power in the first place?
Well, he's got a head judge, a senior minister, and a General Assembly secretary who's just moving things right along.
That part.
And
I'm sorry, go
all
ahead.
wrapped up into one.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, which is why, do you recall I was talking about Jimmy, Apostle Jimmy Jones?
Yes, sir.
You remember what I shared about him being pushed forward? It, it appears
To refresh my memory,
it appears that this particular apostle is being pushed forward in the organization because this was the other individual apostle that was in the Constitutional Revision Committee, along with Apostle Cunningham at the time, Mickey Bailey, and Judge Cuthbert in Georgia, when they made the new Constitution. Um,
was he appointed a new position now?
Yes, he incidentally, because he kept quiet about it, and this is all my opinion, but he kept quiet about it. However, prior to the Constitution coming out, it was that October when he was taken out of Hickory, Virginia, and he was appointed to the chairmanship position in New York. And after that, incidentally, uh, he happened to become the General Assembly secretary. Wonder how that happened,
Ooh,
right? So,
he's on his way. He's got one third power.
right, right. And so, in looking at this again, part of the Constitution, this is why I'm harping on this so much and so intensively, because Section 8G was not there before. And it says the senior minister is being named who shall preside over the trial of the bishop. I said that I believed at the time that Bishop Bailey was putting this into position because at the time he felt if somebody caught him doing something that he wasn't supposed to do, he felt that this clause was going to protect him. And even if it went to trial, this clause will also protect him in the trial because it's the senior minister that's being the one put into the position of presiding over it. And it's the senior minister who's also delegating, here's that word again, appointing a prosecutor. Oh, wait, not from the 500 plus people out in the audience. No, 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 no. We're going to get one of our own, and he can prosecute the bishop. Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. That'll work. Brain. Then we can
Prosecutor
take
from where? The
over the
General
world.
Counsel
Yes,
or anywhere?
from the general counsel. It says the senior
Another
minister
appointed position.
exactly shall designate a special prosecutor from among the general counsel to litigate the charges preferred before the General Assembly at the time the General Assembly notice is sent to the congregations. The bishops shall have an attorney who shall be a member of the church. Of course, at that time, I believe that he would have called Mickey, his daughter, Sister Bailey, to represent him. And I'm sure that he was setting up the ball for Apostle Cunningham at the time to be the one to represent, or to be the senior minister to preside over it, kind of steer the direction of the trial in the General Assembly, but to appoint a council member to be the one who's going to serve as your prosecuting attorney. Right? This is so, so
Oh
bad,
man,
so bad.
it is absolutely absolutely unfair. It is completely biased.
Mm.
It is 100% a conflict of interest. When you have men that are literally rewarded for being complacent,
Mm-hmm.
right? When you have men that are being rewarded for their allegiance and obedience to the bishop,
Mm.
how in the world do you get a fair and honest senior minister to preside and prosecutor from among the general council? It is you're just setting up people
Yeah.
to act against their own self-interest. You're also at the same time setting up people. It's like you're putting a stumbling block in front of them.
Absolutely.
You're giving them an opportunity to just be corrupt, to not do right. And when you set up structure like that, it can't stand. It can't last. People have to see the error and the flaw in that logic, but they're not even voting on these changes if they're just getting pushed through. They're not even given the opportunity to see and debate these changes if it's not being sent to their houses from the proposal committee.
Right.
There are so many steps where these things should be brought into the light, and it's willingly not.
Mm-hmm.
So that the person in the front can just, for the sake of time, just move things along. Like, how about we use that same excuse when we're in the middle of our love march that just never ends? Can we use that excuse the next time we're trying to round it off? Hey, for the sake of time, come on, let's move it along. It is so unfair, though. It is so, it's just corrupt.
Mm.
It's that guild of thieves.
All the way around. And it's that way because they have skillfully maneuvered to remove the orientation process out of the General Assembly. So now they just simply talk. And everything is built around the bishop. It's so very bad. What do you think if you were just coming in today and you saw the problems as they are now? What would you think? What do you think you would do?
That is a really good question, because things today are definitely different than they were when I came in over 20 years ago. And I hope that if I came in today and I saw and knew everything that I saw and knew right now,
Mm-hmm.
I would hope that I would just go running for the hills. There is no way it makes sense in any, let alone religious organization, for all this power to be given to the people on the top. If they are running this thing like it's Walmart, where the hourly employees can come or they can go.
Yeah.
They know there's going to be turnover.
Yeah.
But they're going to get every last second of work out of them and every last dollar that they can make off of them. I mean, I just, you've heard about stories about Walmart. You've heard about stories about Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
And this is supposed to be a religious organization, and not just any religious organization.
Right.
This is supposed to be
Right.
the place where we're saying there's no other place but here, but yet we see all these men who are just helping take away the rights and the liberty even of individuals on the bottom half, like I was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
The ones who actually vote for each other, the ones who actually work with each other, the ones who are out there working hard 24/7 to like make a difference. And the people on that upper half, they are just looking out for themselves.
Oh
I
gosh.
would hope that if I've seen what I know is going on today and what I've seen happening today, I would hope that I'd just run for the hills. But unfortunately, with 20 years, with over 20 years, um, it's hard to do that because I've met so many people and I have literally built relationships with so many people. And there's people that I genuinely love, like genuinely love and care for. And I can't do that today, even though it's like I wish I kind of would have. I care for too many people that are still in it. Too many people that are still, burdened. And they got that yoke around their neck that is just dragging them down. And it is so hard for me to just say, all right, my time's up. See you later. like there has to be something coming. It feels like there's something coming, but I literally the members, every single member from the top to the bottom, including the bishop,
Mm-hmm.
they're all on my heart because this isn't godliness. This isn't holiness. This is not anything close to it. Let alone getting into the doctrine and the things that we've heard. I understand we're talking about the changes to the Constitution, but when you're making changes like this, where do you see Jesus telling his disciples, y'all got to do everything I say. Y'all have to, obey me, pamper me. Y'all have to get me the best chariot.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all have to make sure I got the best clothes. Simon Peter, you better get back out there and keep fishing, making some more money. Because, if I don't get enough from you, then I might just go find another disciple. It's like, you just don't. How can you see the life of Jesus and then compare that to what we see in this organization and say that, oh yeah, it makes sense? It doesn't. It absolutely doesn't.
And go ahead.
It just going back to how you can't be judged. Are you kidding me? Jesus willingly went to go and be judged on more than one occasion. And for someone to act like it is beneath them,
Yeah.
oh man, how arrogant, what a lack of humility. It's and the people that surround him, the councilmen, the pastors, chairmen, from my own personal experiences, such a lack of humility.
Oh gosh.
Such a lack.
Yeah.
I remember I was asked a question one time and I started to give an answer. That's not what I asked you. I was like, what?
Yeah.
We're supposed to treat each other with love, with kindness, with patience, with peace and grace. What are you barking at me for? Because I'm not answering your question quick enough, or because you don't think I'm answering you directly? Are you kidding me? What kind of a leader are you?
Oh
Let
gosh.
alone what kind of child of God treats another person like that.
But see, this is where so many things are going to come out later. Uh, this right here is being summed up as a result of the constitutional issues. Um, the other issues pertaining to things taking place behind closed doors, and things that's not being put in the control of the organization, or things being utilized in the name of the organization, but it has other attachments to it, meaning um, spiritual attachments. And whether everyone believes it or not, there are things taking place around you right now, even in you, and giving you words to say in any and every given situation. But there's a spiritual part that many of us are not paying attention to. Even though that is true, that spiritual entity is running rampant all over the world, let alone here in the organization. And whenever we give place to him, nothing good can come out of it. And whereas the leaders are supposed to be teaching the people, if the leaders are not teaching the people about him, then what are they teaching the people about? And if all of these lines are being drawn to him doing everything in his on his behalf and in his name, then why all of the secrecy? Why all of the violations of the law? You're the first one to follow the law. Why is it that the orders are not being carried out? And if there's something that comes up, why is it that that individual becomes a problem? So all of these are issues that we all need to understand clearly because of this reason. The time is drawing nigh to where the the phone calls will be made to enact certain things. Once that is done, then the people will be getting notifications. Now, I'm talking about what the law specifies. So, for those of you who had questions, who's asking, well, is this possible? Can this happen? And it's not many of you; it's just a handful. You may not have been keeping up with the videos, which is why those questions are coming. But not only can this happen, but it is happening, which is why I've shared with everyone: don't waste your money. You don't want to be putting any more money into the organization because these things are about to take place. And when they do take place, things will be put on hold, brought to a screeching stop. Now, why will they be brought to a stop? Because nobody can do anything. Why can't anybody do anything? Because the organization will be getting ready for a trial. Now, I'm going to let you all know what they know. They know that this is happening. The bishop, the staff, Lady D, Mickey Bailey, the council, your pastors, every single one of you. Your pastors, if they're involved with that council, they know that this is happening. There's some pastors that are not on the council, have never traveled with the council, and they're just confused right now. That's fine. If you watch the rest of the videos, you will no longer be confused. However, you all need to understand and take these words seriously. Stop giving your money. It's a waste. Your G class is going to sit there. It's not going to be reported on your numbers. It's not going to be reported. So if your money is not going to be reported, what's the point of giving your money? If your G-class reports are not going to be reported, then what's the point of working in the kitchen for G-class? if you're going to work in the kitchen, start putting that money in house offering so that the utilities and the expenses of that particular house of prayer can have money in the account to take care of those expenses. I'm telling you what to do to prepare. This is happening. This is not a fly-by-night operation. It's not a joke. This is not a game. This is happening. I told you about tithes. Tithes is going to the bishop. That's why every year he wants to make sure that the houses, tithes is going up. Has nothing to do with you being blessed. People not paying tithes around the world. Bishop Cunningham knows it has nothing to do with being blessed. He told me, you told me in conversation that people not paying tithes at 601 Elm Street and you are not sitting them down. Why? Because he does not believe in the rules. He's not calling me a liar. He's not telling nobody anymore that I'm a liar. Why? Because I'm going to come back and prove that he's the one lying to you. And he knows that. I can easily say that he's a liar. Mm-hmm. The councilmen, they're lying. They're all liars. Lady D.
Got the receipts.
Yes. So, I mean, Mickey Bailey. The problem is you all are believing the wrong ones. And instead of believing the one who can show you that he's telling you the truth, you're believing people who's not telling you nothing. They're not showing you anything. They're just telling you, please believe me, please believe me, please believe me. Mm-hmm. Where's that gotten you? It got you another G-class pen or a necklace that I talked about the other day that's turning necks black, clothes black and green. It's fake jewelry. You're giving all these thousands of dollars for fake jewelry. We had some. I had to stop my daughter from wearing it. So all these thousands of dollars for what? Think about this. And what is it getting you? How close to heaven is it getting you? All of the sickness, diseases. We just had heard a recording of an apostle at that, who's in pain. We're talking about physical pain from a fall. We're not talking about a sickness or a disease or a condition. We're talking about a pain from a fall, an injury from a fall. He couldn't even remove his pain. Not the apostle. The word tells us that Jesus gave them power over unclean spirits, all sickness, all disease. You got sickness and disease riding rampant all throughout the organization. You got bishops with sicknesses and diseases. They're not telling you about it. Huh?
Make sure you put that mask on.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. I have a clip. There's a video feed. Other countries and around this country. No, not other countries. Around the country, national news. The House of Prayer was in national news for a breakout during the pandemic from the events that we had in Charlotte. Now, mind you, fortunately for the organization, they didn't trace people having breakouts in other stops because the bishop did not have the consideration to postpone or stop convocation season. No, everybody keep coming, keep coming. Why? Because he wanted the money. And right now, since that time to this time, those masks have not been removed yet. All over the country, nobody wearing masks. House of Prayer, mask. No, mask. Why? Because they got sick. The former bishop was sick with COVID. This bishop got sick with COVID. In Miami, almost everybody down there, after Bishop Bailey had said, if you mind, you don't have to worry about it. My children don't have to worry about it. Yet almost everybody on the council got sick with COVID. If you sick, stay home and be blessed. Those signs were on the doors. But the scripture tell us, if you're sick, call on the elders of the church. So why is the bishop ordering signs to be put on the doors? If you're sick, stay home. I just saw another clip in New York. Apparently, they have videos on YouTube. Y'all can look them up. Videos going out on YouTube advertising like a commercial that we're sanitizing the sanctuary after services. We're doing our part to keep the house of prayer sanitized because safety is our priority. So come on out to service. Apparently, people not coming to services in New York. If you got to go through those lengths to encourage people to come, then they're not coming. I don't think, however, they're not coming because of the people getting colds. I think they're not coming right now because people's eyes are opening and they're watching these videos and knowing that I'm telling you all the truth.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. In fact, I'm sure that's the case because Pastor Jimmy Jones is the pastor of New York, Mother House. I didn't even think about it. So I'm sure people not coming because they're watching the videos and they're seeing what's taking place and they're disgusted by what it is they see in front of them. And shame on you. You should be ashamed from the bishop all the way down, the staff, everybody included, for the money that you're taking from these people, forcing them into positions of poverty while you are living in wealth. It is absolutely, and this is why I believe the Lord has allowed these things to transpire and to happen so that this can all be brought to a close. Let me say this. I'm sorry. Was there something you wanted to say to piggyback on that? I can come right back to my next comment.
Yeah, real briefly.
Oh yeah.
The, it's so disappointing how we've already touched on how you can't really go to quote unquote management with any issues,
Right.
And I don't know if you recall, but there was a young man who had a powerful, powerful dream about thousands and thousands and thousands of people dying. And he went to go tell his pastor, and he told his friends, and he started talking to members from other houses of prayer too. And every single person looked at him like he was crazy, looked at him like he didn't know what he was talking about, looked at him like, well, my faith and my trust in the Lord. And then COVID-19 popped out, like less than 2 or 3 months later. And then all those people, they're wearing masks in the sanctuary and all that. I'm going to trust in the Lord, and the Lord knows what he's doing, and the bishop knows what he's doing, and I'm just going to follow him. Man, over 100 million people infected, over 1 million people reportedly killed by it. You can't even go to people with a warning when the Lord puts something on your heart, let alone a grievance. That's just sad.
Because people have bought into this lie or a bundle of lies. Here's the thing. There are people that are so disgusted by, bothered by, irritated by, frustrated by, angered by, upset by, fill in the blank, whatever word you want to use. The manipulation is so. Here's the thing: every member, every member that's in support of what it is that we're doing. Email. Look in the description of all of these videos. You'll find an email address. We stand for right 2024 at gmail.com. That's our email address. We stand for right 2024 at gmail.com. Send us an email. If you are in support of what it is that we're doing, send us an email and put down your title, brother, sister, elder, deacon, or what have you, apostle, missionary. your title, your initials, and your last name. If there's 5 of you, 4 of you in your household, then put that in the email. We are going to compile a list of supporters, and it'll be a number of supporters that is behind what we are doing. Now, that will not be used, but it will be on hand in the event that when we go forward, that either the general counsel or the bishop attempts to maneuver in a way where they say, well, this is not official, this is not possible, we're not going to act on this paperwork document. Here's what's going to take place. You will be hearing in the next, you'll be hearing very, very soon, you will be hearing from headquarters. And you're going to be getting instructions. During that time, you're going to be told what it is that you need to do next as congregations. So you can stop giving, keep attending, but just keep your ear to the ground. There's no need to be afraid or intimidated by anybody. Once again, the council, the bishop, your pastors, they're on standby notice. They have a job to do, and they know what their job is. If they don't do their job, it's going to be worse for them. If they do their job, then it won't be as bad for them, at least immediately. I've said before that the worst that can happen if the council does their job, if the proposal committee does their job, the worst thing that can happen, and even for the bishop, if he does what he's required to do, the worst thing that can happen is that they will simply be removed from their positions. That's the worst if they go through the trial and do what they're supposed to. If they don't do what they're supposed to prior to the trial, then it's going to get bad. By bad, I simply mean that the steps that need to be taken will be taken to make sure that they do their job. Anybody who's in support of the bishop or the general counsel, or your pastors who's still trying to support the bishop, I'm telling you now, the best thing for you to do is step back and just watch, just observe. Do not take an active role in anything. Just sit back and watch. From there, you will absolutely see that this is happening. Okay? I can't make this any more plainer than what I am. For those of you on the council, the best thing for you to do is sit back and wait. And then when it's time for you to do what you're supposed to do, what you're required to do, jump with gusto to carry that thing out, so that can be done with speed, with quickness, and that will help you guys. When it comes to the bishop's office, same thing. The faster you do what's required and what's necessary, the easier this will be, the better it will be for everyone. If you stall, if you postpone, if you put it off, it's going to be worse for you all. You do not want to go that direction. You don't want to postpone and put this off. So for the members, stop giving your money. If you're cooking in the kitchen, if you're selling anything, the ticket selling and all that stuff, you can stop all ticket sales, all raffles, rallying, stop it. It's a waste of your time. It's a waste of your energy. It's a waste of your money. Again, if you're going to continue to work in the kitchens, then allow that money to be used for a house offering. It's a waste of your time also. to be in the kitchens raising money for G class. This whole thing is over. This is an end to the money raising, the manipulating, the lying to the members, the whole nine. It's a wrap. This is done. It's a done deal. So we have a little bit more that we're going to be doing. I'm still going to be bringing on Brother Edwards, Brother Kill, Brother Perry. We have somebody else that's going to be coming on this week, maybe two other individuals. And I may have another individual that we haven't heard from. And if that person comes on, they're going to confirm everything that you've heard so far. And you will probably jump right in and be on board. I have not said a lot of things, but I'm going to stop here with what I say next. And then I'm going to turn the mic over to Josh. It seems for some of you confusing. It seems sad. This is not sad. Everything is about to be so much better. So much better. And I have not shared a whole lot about what's going on behind closed doors. And I haven't shared those things because I don't want to upset. Like I said from the beginning, I don't want to upset you. Some of it can be offensive because if you don't believe it and then you find out that it's true, you're going to get angry. You're going to get angry. It's not necessary for you to know what they've been doing behind closed doors. What is necessary is for you to understand that they have not been following the laws. They've been breaking the laws. They've been calling us fools behind our backs, and they've been doing anything and everything they want while having us go in a direction thinking that heaven is for sale. The blessings of the Lord are for sale. They're not. Grace is free. Salvation is free. Working out your soul salvation is not a thing at all. You can't work out your soul salvation. And many of you who think that paying all this money and keeping the bishop's words is going to get you in the gate, you don't want to end up in a situation where you're standing before God and all of a sudden you're turned away. There's one way, and that's his son. Period. The bishop will have no authority whatsoever in judgment. None at all. And if you listen and pay very close attention, then you will understand these things and begin to let go of this fairy tale pipe dream that you can do anything, live any kind of way you want, have all this fun in the hotels during convocation season and all this stuff on the road that people call fun, but the scripture calls it sin, and think that just because you're paying money and following this man around the country and giving him your money, that you're going to receive the rewards promised by the Lord to those who seek him. It's not going to work that way. So let go, listen, pay attention. If you haven't seen the other videos, watch them. If you're more inclined to want to know what the law says, listen to the most recent videos and even work your way back. That said, in the next few days, I will be giving you the information as it goes out. By that I mean additional information. And what it is that I put out, I'm going to be putting online for everybody to be able to print at home so that you'll have your own individual copies. So that said, Josh, I'll go ahead and give you the floor and we'll close out from here.
Yeah, I did want to share something. Am I coming through okay?
Yes.
Okay. To anyone who's listening, a lot of what Joseph had just shared is news to me too. I'm not privy to everything going on. I'm on standby right now. But I can understand that it might seem a little confusing. Some people might be angry. Some people might be upset. um, at a lot of different people, even myself and Joe right now. But for those of you who are unsure of the future, possibly, maybe you're even hesitant to, maybe you feel bad about not giving like you're used to. Maybe even just set that money aside and just wait and see. Don't give it, but set it aside just to wait and see what happens, so that if something happens, you didn't just waste your money, and if nothing happens, then do what you want with it. But I would definitely encourage everyone, whether you're a member, a non-member, whether you're 1 foot out the door, or whatever the case may be. Maybe you've never been a member and you're just interested in what's going on. Just treat everyone with love and charity. This is not a call to violence whatsoever. This is not a call for retribution. What we're waiting on is justice. What we're waiting on is for the Lord to move. And we know that when the Lord moves, nothing's going to stop him. And in the meantime, I would encourage everyone just to love your brother, love your sister, really, really act with love and charity in the meantime. And in this moment, it's kind of like we're on the road to Damascus, right? And this is our come to Jesus moment, right? This is what I believe in. This is our come to Jesus moment, where he's going to make himself known to you and you and you in a personal and in a real way that maybe you've never known before. Not saying that you don't know about Jesus, not saying that you never even considered, who he is. We've all heard about Jesus. But even Saul had heard about Jesus. And while he's on the way to Damascus, he had a come to Jesus moment. And this is what we can look forward to. This is something new, something special, something that was meant to be, something that's right, something that feels good and agrees with your spirit, your soul. Just wait and see. Just wait and see. This is going to be something where the blinders literally come off and you've got 20/20 vision. So I just encourage everyone, act in love. Don't do anything that you're going to regret. This is definitely not a call for that. This is a call for peace. This is a call for just patience. This is a call for wait and see what the Lord is going to do, because it's going to happen. It's probably going to happen sooner than you know, too. And the last thing that I'll say is just, be prayerful. Obviously, think about, I think about the members that I know and love, the ones that I've come in contact with. I still think of so many people as family. I really, really do. And, so many have a place in my heart. So many I was a young man, grew up with knowing, and it's like that person could easily, be my uncle. That person could easily be my brother, my sister. And being prayerful and thinking about all of them, it's like I only want the best for all of us. And I'm hoping and I'm praying that the Lord will do just that, and he'll open up our eyes to see just how good it can be to truly serve him, in spirit and in truth. And like Joe was saying about just trusting in Jesus, it's like there's so many things that Jesus did in his word, and only so much of it was recorded. But keep in mind, book, chapter, verse, Matthew, chapter 28 and verse 20, that those things were recorded so that you would believe in him 20 and 20, John 20 and 31. Those things were written that you would believe in Jesus Christ, and that believing in him, you'd have life through his name. No other name. His name. Jesus' name. So, love you all. Thank you for your time. Thank you so much, Joseph, for having me on.
Absolutely.
I apologize for the phone troubles that I had tonight, but I am so thankful that I was able to be a part of it. Looking forward to the next time. Looking forward to watching this thing develop and grow into something beautiful.
You and so many more. There's oh gosh, I have no idea how many are waiting for the outcome of this. There's many non-members. Many people have shown interest in being present to see how this goes, because they have such a vested interest in the outcome of this ordeal, this situation. And many people have said it's about time. So we're looking forward to, as he said, seeing how the Lord is going to drive this and arrive at our destination where we can all come together. That said, we want to thank each and every one for your attention and your time tonight. And the announcement that I talked about last week, there's just a couple of other things, and then we'll be bringing that forward. In the meantime, I have a couple of more recordings that I would like to touch on tomorrow. I have a couple of letters, and we have more emails and commentary that individuals would like to have read as well. Some very interesting dialogue there. So we'll see you guys in the next video, but do not forget, shoot your emails in, your titles, initials and last names, and the numbers of you in your households. And then we'll be going from there in the next few days. But again, everything will be transparent. You will know exactly what's taking place, and you will know prior to anyone else knowing. Everything that we're going to be doing, we're going to be putting it out first here, with the exception of a couple of things, actually. But you will know what it is that we're doing. That said, have a good night, everyone, and we'll see you back in the next video. Thank you, Josh. We'll see you as well next time.
Thank you so much, Stephen.
Absolutely.